Quick episode recap. While exploring the capital with the girls, Yuya gets interested in the Adventurers Guild and decides to register with Luna. They take on a herb collection request and begin to collect when Owen suddenly returns with news that Prince Rygar's location has been found. Yuya urgently follows him to an isolated building, where he helps to swiftly secure the prince before he can cause any more damage to himself and others. Before they could take him away, however, a girl suddenly appears, and we learn that she was secretly supporting the prince to be king, in order for him to wage war on other nations and wipe out humanity. With his failure, she planned on disposing of them, but is interrupted by Yuya. Upon realizing he is the one who taught the divine rabbit his magic, she decides to retreat to recover her energy. Back in the castle, the girls are astonished to find out that there exists someone actually stronger than Yuya, but they are relieved of his safe return. Owen enters the room to inform them they are about to decide how to deal with the prince, and asks for his attendance. In the throne room, Rhaegar is held down by knights while the king and the country's nobles silently observe him. They proceed to tear off his shirt and mask, revealing large burn marks and scars underneath. Both Lexia and Arnold avert their eyes from his figure, unable to look at him. Angered by their pity, Rhaegar is quick to point out Lexia is the cause of his misfortune. She had lost control of her magic in the past, and he unfortunately got caught up in it, causing grievous injuries. Arnold denies this, saying his wounds should have healed, which is true. However, Rhaegar went insane after a tremendous amount of magic was forced into him, and the urge for destruction rapidly grew. The only way to suppress this desire was to inflict harm on himself instead, which is how he ended up with his scars. The king knew of his suffering but did nothing but watch. His condition was akin to a curse, and nothing could be done to help. Arnold isolated him instead, and Rhaegar gradually lost his ability to restrain his destructive impulses toward Lexia, becoming more desperate to kill her. The public began to perceive him as an outcast, a shame of the royal family, and he could not accept that. Feeling there's no point in living anymore, he asks for a quick death. Hearing this, Yuya is reminded of his own past, where he was constantly looked down on and bullied, and empathizes with him. He interrupts, wanting to try something out. He pulls out a potion from his dimensional storage, and slowly approaches the scared prince. Holding him down, Yuya applies it on him, and everyone watches in awe as the scars rapidly fade away. Not understanding their shock, Rhaegar stumbles over to a window and gets stunned by the flawless skin reflected on the glass. Yuya explains that since the scar is the source of his misery, he took the liberty to heal it completely using the potion made from a cure-all herb. Everyone is dumbfounded by his casual remark, and he then remembers that the herb is actually considered something legendary and extremely hard to find. Arnold is astonished he'd used something so treasured for his son, but Yuya admits he has a lot of them growing in his backyard. Rhaegar laughs bitterly at his situation. Although he has returned to normal now, there is no escaping death for his past deeds. One of his crimes is the attempted assassination of Lexia, but she is quick to pardon him for his actions. Rhaegar colluded with the Dark Guild and came for her, but she alludes to how Luna was also once part of it. She insists he must be forgiven, and argues that she and her father were complicit for letting the Dark Guild run unchecked all this time anyways. Although the king was also attacked this time, she demands he simply forgives Rhaegar as well. Her forceful nature ultimately causes him to reluctantly comply, and the case ends with his pardon. Lexia wants to restore her relationship with her brother. Prince Rhaegar escaped a death sentence, but his lands were seized. He sincerely thanks Yuya for his help, and the meeting segues to discuss his reward for his participation. Lexia suggests becoming married to her, but Luna rather he marries her instead. Rhaegar gives his own suggestion to Arnold, and he agrees. Yuya will be given the land taken from Rhaegar, and also be rewarded the standing of knight. He will stay at the castle for the night, and he reflects on how so many things have happened. In his dream, he finds himself fighting the girl and struggles to keep up with her attacks. He wakes up from his nightmare and grows nervous at the thought of confronting her. Back at school, Yuya ignores his friends asking him to hang out together, and instead rushes out, telling them he has something important to do. He recalls his conversation with Rhaegar, who tells him he met the girl through the Dark Guild, and while he doesn't know much about her, he confirms that she is very strong. She can call on the power of the vial, and he remembers the Divine Rabbit informing him about the Divine and the Vial. In the other world, Yuya is in a rush to get stronger, realizing clashing with the Vial will be inevitable. Night seems to sense danger, and Yuya quickly evades a sudden attack. He's shocked that she's already here, and demands to know her purpose in attacking him. She considers him a threat that may hinder her plans for revenge. Hiding Akatsuki under an invisibility cloak, Yuya prepares for battle. At the same time, Kaori is at Yuya's front gate, but upon noticing his door slightly ajar, she decides to quietly enter, justifying she just wants to study together. She enters the garden in the other world, and recalls Yuya's warning about monsters in the forest, but she then notices the explosions in the distance. Yuya is barraged by the girl's arrows, and he tries his best to counter her by teaming up with Night. While he charges at her, Kaori suddenly calls out to him, and he has no choice but to jump in front to block the attack coming for her. The girl has got him pinned down now, but before her finishing blow could land, the Divine Rabbit appears in between and kicks it out of the way. He was out investigating, and he calls out to the girl, calling her Yuri. She is the successor to the Divine Archer who was slain, and she wants revenge on the humans for betraying her master despite passionately protecting them. The rabbit states that the archer was following the covenant to protect the planet, and criticizes her usage of the archer's powers and working for the vial as an unforgivable act. But she doesn't care, as she did not inherit the title of divine, and the covenant doesn't apply to her. She is able to keep up with them by predicting their movements in the midst of battle, and the rabbit informs him that this was the divine archer's specialty. He has Yuya imitate his earlier kick, and while Night attacks her leg, the rabbit lands a critical blow on her. Frustrated, she asks what value do humans have when all they do is betray each other and cause meaningless wars. But the rabbit states neither he nor she has the right to decide their worth. Angered, Yuri begins to borrow the power of the vial, and she is now able to keep up with the divine rabbit in combat. Akatsuki suddenly decides to leave the blanket and hobbles over to the fighting. He releases his holy ground skill, and the area eventually encompasses Yuri, causing her to lose her strength. Using the chance, Yuya quickly approaches next to her and knocks her unconscious. The rabbit explains that apart from the divine, there are also mystical creatures that can also stand against the vial, and Akatsuki is one of them. He leaves Yuya to deal with Yuri, and rushes off. Kaori approaches Yuya, but she doesn't see the monster behind her, which Yuya accurately one-shots with a spear throw. He tells her that this is his everyday life in this world, and wonders if he scares her. But she denies it, telling him his kind personality hasn't changed at all since she first met him. With the situation now settled, Kaori is eventually introduced to Lexia and Luna, and gets dragged away by Lexia into taking a bath together with them. Yuya seems to have made up with his siblings, as they happily wait for him a distance away. At school, Yudi is introduced as a new transfer student to the class. Yuya continues to enjoy his high school life with his friends, and he's gotten much closer to Kaori as well.